My name is Madelyn Scales Harris, and I'm homegrown. I was born right here in Murfreesboro. And when I was born, Murfreesboro was very segregated. And my mother said that the white babies were brought to their parents, their mother, in the little girls in the beautiful pink bassinet with a pink blanket, and the little boys in the blue, the little white kids. But the black kids, they were handed to their parents in a white blanket and in a box. Mama said it was like a cardboard box looking thing. It was a big difference, and Dr. Lois Kennedy, back then, Mama said, just made a tremendous input and impact on the community, and she changed a lot of segregation things like that. I am one of 6 children, 3 girls and 3 boys. My 2 brothers, then I came, and then my other brother came a year later. We were all right in a row, and then Mom and Dad skipped 2 or 3 years, and then my 2 sisters came. So I'm kind of mashed in between all the boys. I used to think I was a little bit of a tomboy, but I don't know. I just like to hang with my brothers sometimes. I attended Bradley Kindergarten, right next to Bradley Elementary, and then I went to Bradley School for 7 years, and my 8th grade year is when integration began here in Murfreesboro, so our parents sent us to the white schools, and I was the only black female in Bellwood in the 8th grade. Then I left Bellwood and I went to Central High School, which was the big high school here. I mean, it was so crowded at Central High. I mean, you change classes and you are literally bumped up against someone. It was crowded. But we were the #1 in sports and everything because, you know, just about all the kids went to Central. And then I graduated from Central in 1970, and I went to Memphis State University for 3 years. I got homesick, so I came home and I finished at Middle Tennessee State University. I'm the proud mother of a son, Robert Harris, Robert Edmond, and he was named after my grandfather, his grandfather, my dad, and my great-grandfather, and my brother. You just on and on. We have a lot of Roberts in our family. And I have a beautiful granddaughter who's 4 years old now, going on 54. Her name is Mariah Elizabeth, and Robert named her. And the Elizabeth came from my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, me. So the Elizabeths are really powerful in our family. I didn't. I did not want to be a part of the city council. But politics and helping people is part of my DNA. I ran from that a long time because of the things my parents went through. And I said, I'll never go in politics, never. And I used to ask them when things would come up and Dad would go through so much and Mama would go through so much. And I said, why do y'all go through this? And Daddy said, this is where God has placed us. Unconsciously growing up with my parents, I was gradually being ingrained, my mind, in politics. I can see them now sitting at the kitchen table discussing situations that have come up on the council, trying to come up with remedies and things like that, and how they would dissect different situations. And so my dad, he was on the city council for 24 years. And part of that time, he was the vice mayor of Murfreesboro. Mom served 1 term. She came out in '88. And I think 20-something years passed. And I don't know if you've experienced this before, how when God has something for you to do, he'll slow walk you down mentally. And he kept that small voice, tiny voice, quiet, still voice, kept telling me, I'm going in politics, and I'm ignoring this. So, and I remember Villar Anderson. I think God just sent him to me. He said one day, why don't you run for city council? Which God had already been working. I said, no, Villar, get out of here, go out. Every time I would see him, I said, oh, here comes the speech. But I remember surrendering to God. And I said, okay, Lord, what is it you want me to do? And he made it clear. I said, please make it very clear. And he made it as clear as water. I went to my mom's house and I said, Mom, I think I'm gonna run for city council. And she said, great. And I didn't want that reaction. And I said, Mama, there are 3 positions and 3 incumbents have already announced. I said, I cannot beat those guys. I can't beat them. And she said, oh yes, you're gonna beat them. I said, how, Mama? How can I beat them? She said, you're gonna run every day like you're 200 votes behind. And that's how you're gonna do it. And she said another thing, do not promise the people anything that you can't deliver. Don't promise them whatever issues are on the board or anything. Don't promise anything that you can't deliver. And I got to thinking and I prayed about that and we talked about it and it was simple. I'm going to be the voice of the people. For the people who cannot be their own voice, I'm going to speak up and be your voice. And so I ran on that platform. I ran and I did win. I came in last place, but when you come on the council, everyone's even. The second term, I ran again, came in last place, but it didn't matter to me. I was still up on the council. And this last election in 2018, this time I did not even have a team, a committee or anything. It was just me and my yard guy and my media person and my treasurer. And I decided, okay, Lord, because I was so crushed because my mother had left me. And she was my #1 fan. I mean, I could go to her. I remember sometimes things happen on the council and I go home crying, open the door and I'm crying. And after a while, Mama said, hold it. You're gonna stop these tears. Now I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. And that's it. You're gonna dry those tears. You are doing a great job. She said, if me and your daddy could go through what we went through, you continue just to be a voice. And she said, and make decisions, not on your emotions, but on the facts. And even today, what gives me strength is I said I wanted to sit where my mom and dad sat. I'm sitting where they sat on the council. And my dad didn't live to see the new city hall. He was right next to the water department. If you can believe that, on Broad Street was City Hall. The same doorknob my mother touched going into that council chamber, I touch it. And when things get so tedious, sometimes I don't know what to do. When I go into the council chamber and I touch that doorknob, it's just like peace comes over me. God has blessed me to be in a family and in an environment of givers. My mom and dad, they spent their life giving back to the community. And they taught us to give back. It's in my DNA. I'm a giver. And our community is what it is. It's a community. I think about if God took me today and on Judgment Day, when I stood before him, when I stand before him, what would he say to me about what the Bible tells me to do, about giving to others? The blessed of us must help the rest of us. And today, I'm not satisfied with what I'm doing. I want to do more. I dream about and I think about the veterans in our community. How when the wars and all this going on, how I and my family, how safe and peaceful we were. And they were giving their lives away to cover us. I think about that. And then when I see a veteran and an amputee, it does something to me. Because these men and women, they went looking like me with their limbs and all, and some came back with no limbs, their minds, and that hurts me when I see a veteran. I want to see the city do more for veterans. I want to see the city do more for teachers. If you ask 10 people who influenced you the most, other than a guardian or a parent, I guarantee you over half of them would say a teacher. I'm from a family of teachers. My mother was the greatest teacher that ever lived, in my opinion. My sister is the greatest teacher. She used to be at Oakland in the math department, head of that, and She taught the top math class. And Mama and Joan, their life was their students. Even when they got home, they still working as hard. You know, teachers, a truly called teacher can easily, and I know this sounds crazy, but can easily spend 18 to 20 hours a day on teaching. And children are developed from teachers a lot because teachers are a great influence. And I want to see us do more as far as giving them more money. And it's not, a true teacher is not all about the money. But I'm really embarrassed on what we pay one of the greatest influencers of our children and the hard work they do. So that's another thing. And I know there are things that come up in the city like rezoning, redistricting, whether we're gonna let this corporation come in or whatnot. Our city is just growing, and we need to grow in love. You know, we need to grow in love more. And I just feel like that I'm letting the people down in that way. So I want to try to do more for our community. We have an obligation to keep our citizens safe. We have an obligation to meet the needs of our citizens. We have the role of keeping our budget intact and making sure we have the right funding for different things, making decisions. And I always consider in making decisions, whether they are small decisions or large decisions, my parents used to always say, in your decisions, how is that going to impact the citizens? So I try to keep that in mind when I'm making decisions. So I think my role is twofold, making sure financially we're sound, and where I think our lack is providing needs for the city, for our citizens. A vibrant, healthy society or community is one that I know we can't do anything about all the homeless, but you don't see a lot of homelessness. The Bible talks about, and this is a category I think I'm guilty of in not addressing. The Bible talks about addressing the widows and the widowers. What are we doing? And that specifically is mentioned in the Bible. They are mentioned, but I say, what are we doing as a community for these people? So, as you can see, I'm a people person. I'm not a number cruncher, and that's what makes our council so unique. We have someone that's good in numbers, someone's good in bonds, you know, their background, and that makes a council that comes together. Jail together. It's a holistic role. You have to meet every need. And I want to see our council just do as much as we can for people and their personal needs. The people. It's the people. I've had people visit me and they said, this is the most friendly town. Now, I've had some people, my relatives, close relatives, have come from Miami. And I remember going to visit them one time, and we were in the store, and I was just smiling and speaking, and my Aunt Georgia said, we don't do that here. You know, hello. And she said, and they'll look at me kind of, and she said, we don't do that here, you know. It's not that type of environment here, but people are friendly here. And what I would like to see in Murfreesboro, I would like to see, if nothing but once a year, that all the churches come together. All the churches come together in a building, if we can find one to hold the churches, and just praise God together. Because He's the one that keeps us. And He's the one He's our GPS in life. I like to see us acknowledge Him. And when we acknowledge Him, I think a lot of things will cease. I think we won't see color. We just won't see color. We won't make a difference in color. Our demeanor toward each other. I think we'll have a community that'll come together that impacts lives of people. And I'm just trying to make our city, make myself, someone and people that are pleasing in the sight of God. For instance, in Murfreesboro, what is it that a child could want to be that Murfreesboro is not a good example? We have good medical facilities. We have the university out there, university with top nursing program, aviation, masonry, everything. And it's not an occupation that a child would want to be that they can't shadow someone. So that's a blessing in the community. Right now, I see Murfreesboro, and I'm going back to my childhood now. I want you to visualize unpopped popcorn in a kettle. And that's how we ate popcorn back then. We put the oil in there, we put the grains of popcorn. We didn't have these microwaves. Put the grain of popcorn in there and it would rise. And then all of a sudden popcorn just even took the lid off the pot you had it in and popcorn going everywhere. I see Murfreesboro as popcorn coming out of a kettle. Right now, the popcorn is steel, or even imagine rice, and then once it starts cooking, how it swells up. As a city, we have to be ready for that overflow, and it's here. I mean, people are coming in here, by the dozens. Homeowner sales are up. The apartments are up. You can't find places, they say a lot of times, to live. We're just exploding. We're bursting at the seams. So, and that, we have to have strategic planning. We can't make decisions based solely on what we see today. We need to, as a council, make decisions on the future. And that is a big thing to do. It's really challenging. It's challenging. So in 10 years from now, I see Murfreesboro being a little metro. And I don't mean to say it scary, but I can see us, and I'm not talking about as far as crime or anything, but I can see us being in Atlanta, a big city like that, because we're already headed that way. The traffic, my son lives in Atlanta, lives in Smyrna, Georgia, and he said, Mom, when you retire forever, from the council, are you gonna move here? I said, oh, no. He said, why, Mom? I'm here, Mariah's here. I said, Robert, the traffic. And then when I have to go somewhere in Murfreesboro, it depends on the time of day. We're a little Atlanta with the traffic. And where we lack is, at least they have the infrastructure. So I see us 10 years from now, if we don't get a grip on our roads, I see nothing but congestion. 10 years from now, I would love to see more jobs coming in here for people. I'd love to see, even though whatever the part of the minimum wage is, I would like to see Murfreesboro known as a place that doesn't have minimum wage, where we can pay people better. 10 years from now, I see us exploding. As a council, we just have to look down the road as we make these decisions about our roads, about our schools, about our children, about the homeless, you name it. We just have to look way outside the box, because we're already here. We just haven't been ignited yet. But all these problems and situations, they are here.